Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bigger on the Inside, the new Doctor Who Watch Along podcast. It's an interview one again this week. No Harry, unfortunately, because he doesn't care about any of you listeners. Isn't that disgusting? Anyway, so it's just me, and I'm talking with the fantastic Big Finish Doctor Who novel, audio, comic, everything writer, Johnny Morris. Most recently, you probably know his work from Ghosts, and also the brand new Time Lord Victoria story, Genetics of the Daleks, starring Tom Baker. We talk about all of that. We talk about how to get into writing. We talk about writing for Doctor Who. We talk about future Big Finish projects. We talk about the hidden Big Finish vault, as I like to call it. So there's lots of exciting stuff coming up for you nerds out there.
I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous.
I hope the ears are a bit less conspicuous this time.
You might be a doctor, but I am
I'm a doctor, but probably not the one who expected.
Absolutely fantastic.
All of time and space, everything that ever happened or ever will. Where do you want to start?
So our first question is, what was it that got you starting writing for Big Finish?
Well, this is going back quite a long time. This is going back to about 1999, 2000-ish. Because I was a lapsed Doctor Who fan. I sort of during the wilderness years where other people were keeping the flame alive, I was just going, let the flame go out for a bit. I'm quite happy with no flame. But then I sort of got dragged back in through reading some of the books, and I submitted my own idea for a book, which became Festival of Death, and that was the editor of that, or the assistant, Jack Rayner, was so enthused about it. She told Gary Russell at Big Finish, and Gary Russell went, "Oh, Johnny Morris, oh, I know him," because Gary was in the Erasure fan club, and I knew him from there. And we had a few chats, and I'd done stuff for radio. I'd done sort of things like Weekending and the sort of sketches.
Yeah.
And Gary was good enough to sort of try me out for a Big Finish. I was at the very first meeting when for the launch of Sirens of Time, and I was sort of there, just having just moved to London, not being part of fandom really at all.
Yeah.
We're sort of sitting in the corner going, "Oh, look, there's Stephen Moffat over there. Oh, there's Mark Gatiss, and oh, there's Nick Briggs." And I knew no one. I talked to Gary for about half an hour. He's going, "Johnny, it's going to be, I want you to do a story with Silurians and Sea Devils."
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. That was Blood Tide. So that was the first one I did for Big Finish.
Yeah, we recently we do a series called Big Finish Battles, where myself and my friend Harrison, we pick a Big Finish story and we recommend it to each other. And he recently picked Blood Tide before we announced that you were coming on, so it all kind of worked out quite well, and he really enjoyed it.
That's good. I'm quite proud of it. It was my first go. I always say it was my first go. And the one sort of proviso with that is when I was writing it, I was sort of under the impression that the way Big Finish would work would be that I would they'd record it and then edit it down to 25-minute episodes.
Okay.
And so there's more material in there than there should be. So I sort of say it's got the right number of good bits for a 25-minute episode.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes it's half an hour or 35 minutes, and there's stuff in there which I would, given the chance again, I would go, cut that,
How much free rein do you get with a story then? Because there's obviously a storyline that the show goes for, and then Big Finish from sort of an outsider's point of view just seems to, there's a gap there. We'll do a story there. We'll do a story with this character and this character. Is it quite hard then not to sort of affect the TV show canon and sort of whilst also trying to make it slightly interesting for new listeners?
Well, the brief is the producer normally has some sort of idea. They will specify which Doctor and which companion usually, and there will be something like, "Oh, we've done quite a lot of history stories recently. Could it be set in space or in the future, or could you do something with this monster or bringing back these characters?" There's normally something. and usually the more things you're told, the more helpful it is. Sometimes you're sort of racking your brain going, I don't understand how I can get Vicky and Joe Grant and Strax in the same story. It doesn't make sense. But sometimes that's a hypothetical example. That's not an unmade story. So a lot of it is just sort of trying to come up with ideas that haven't been done before.
Yeah.
And with Doctor Who, that can be a problem because there's like there must be 1,000 stories. If you there's the TV stuff, there's all the Big Finish comic strips and books. And then from about 2005, there was the added issue that you'd come up with a great story. I go, I mean, one of the things I did in the comic strip was I want to do a story where the TARDIS is taken over by an evil entity, and where the evil entity changes the nature of the corridors inside, and everyone's trapped. And
okay, yeah.
And it was like, no, Neil Gaiman's doing that one, and so the added complication is you're trying to sort of do stuff like the TV series, but every now and then you get so close, you go, no, they're doing that. I mean, even with Genetics of the Daleks, which isn't even out yet, there was a part of that had to be changed because I'd very accidentally sort of got very close to the evolution of the Daleks, which I have no idea what happens in, but I know one thing that happens in it because I had to take that out of my story.
Oh, very interesting. You're teasing us. I know I'll get to Genetics of the Daleks later. I want to save that to the end. But so you write for the comics, books, Big Finish. Seems like the only Doctor Who medium that you haven't indulged in yet would be the actual main show.
Yes, I am aware of that. I think there's stage plays. I haven't had a go at stage plays yet, so I have my ambitions there as well. Yeah, it's one of those things where occasionally I've been to signings, and people sort of come up to go, Johnny, why aren't you working for the TV show? You'd be really good at it, And I go, I'm not going to disagree with you. It's a very nice thing to say, but please don't sort of portray my current career as some sort of being second best, or being a failure, because in terms of being a writer, in terms of being prolific and being in constant employment and stuff, I'm doing pretty well. I'm quite satisfied with how things have gone.
Yeah. Is there a favorite story that you've wrote then for Big Finish? Is the one that you look at and you go, that's the one. That's one if I had a list of all my episodes that I wrote, all my stories, that would be at the top.
It's a difficult one because it will change, and there's ones where I have happy memories associated with it, where it might not be the most well-received story in the world. And I mean, there's ones where I think I wrote a great script, and where that wasn't necessarily what came across in the end. But if I had to choose one, I'd go for I think Static is the one that works really, really well.
Yeah,
it was a great cast. It was really well directed and post-produced. But as soon as I said that, I've gone, oh, Damaged Goods as well. Damaged Goods is really good. I'm very proud of that. And then I'll just go through all of them. There are only about 2 or 3 where I think I didn't get it. Where I didn't quite nail the script, but because I do, I put the effort in. So
yeah. Is there a difference when writing for different Doctors? Because on screen they all have their own different characteristics, but I always wonder how much of that is down to the actor or actress who's playing a role and not actually down to the writing. So, for example, when you write for Tom Baker, is there a difference in how you would write for Tom as opposed to David? Or
there's 2 sort of ways in which they're different. Firstly, they have their voices and stuff. So the 4th Doctor will be in it. The more dangerous the situation is, the more flippant he might become.
Yeah.
He might sort of, or that Tom Baker, if you give him a serious line, like we're trapped in this lighthouse and we're all going to die, he'll play it as though it's a joke. So you have the actor's voice, and they're all very, very different in how they sort of play lines. And the second thing is how they act within the story. And the 4th Doctor and the 6th Doctor are both very sort of assertive figures. They'll enter a scene and they will dominate it.
Yeah.
Whereas the Fifth Doctor is much more reactive. He reacts to things around him. He doesn't try to dominate proceedings. And the Seventh Doctor, of course, is even more sort of reactive and in the background, and the chess master type thing. And then you have the Eighth Doctor, who sort of started out as a sort of almost archetypical Doctor, because obviously we know we didn't have a lot to go on, but now even we have Paul McGann's voice, and we know what he's good at, what his strengths are, where the sort of situation. So I wrote years ago where it was Resurrection of Mars, where it was all about giving him the best possible scenes to play, where he's a great dramatic actor, so you want to make him situations where he's really playing the drama of a situation. And I've done one for David Tennant, I think, and so again, you're just going, okay, I'll watch a TV episode just to get his voice in my head.
Yeah.
And you sort of you do want a sort of it to be sort of similar to what it was on TV. I think I have him saying the line, "I ain't afraid of no ghosts."
Yes.
in a ghost story, because I couldn't resist it, and just so River Song can go, please never do that again. So it'd be interesting to see if that's in the finished product. I don't know, but so yeah, you're sort of harking back to the TV series for most of them, not for Paul McGann as much, but yeah, you want people to listen to it and go, that's the person I saw on TV.
No, yeah, definitely. Was Doctor Who, did you always want to work with Doctor Who? Was that like the property to go for?
Well, I was and am a big fan, and when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I started writing Doctor Who stories, and I sort of kept going for about 8 years. It's there's this theory that if you do something for 10,000 hours, that's how long it takes to become good at it.
Yeah.
And I think by the time I was about 15, I had spent 10,000 hours writing Doctor Who stories. Quite a lot of them never got finished. Quite a lot of them I got to the end of part 3 and I got stuck going, well, I think the villains have won this time. Actually, I can't remember the Doctor defeats them. I didn't think that through. And some of those things have turned up in big finish stories. Cobwebs was one which I sort of worked out when I was about 14.
Oh,
so
wow.
And there's one which I'm going to be writing hopefully next month, which has bits of it from an idea I sent to the BBC when I was 16.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
I had a rejection letter from Andrew Cartmel going, we're not making Doctor Who anymore. It was quite a nice idea. So, but all these things have been sort of stored away somewhere. So, yeah. So yeah, I do massively enjoy writing Doctor Who stories, and I keep getting asked back, and so I must be, the people who employ me must think I'm good at it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners do as well. It seems becoming a writer seems to be becoming more and more popular than actually wanting to be on-screen talent. Instead of wanting to be an actor or dancer or singer, people want to be the creative team behind whatever vision people are looking at. So do you have any advice for people who would want to be writers?
Well, I'm very, very wary of giving advice because you want to take advice from people who are more successful than me. Take advice from Russell Davies. Read The Writer's Tale book. Read Stephen King's book on writing. Listen to interviews with Stephen Moffat and Jed Mercurio and Sally Wainwright. Go to them for advice. They'll probably give you better advice than me. The one thing I will say is, if you're a writer, eventually someone will go, okay, I'll give you a go. What have you got? And they'll go, and you go, what do you mean, what have I got? You go, well, you say you want to write a radio script. Let's see a radio script you've written. Or you want to say you want to play, let's see a play you've written. and so you need to have already done them.
Yeah.
If you want to be a writer, you need a portfolio of going, here's my sitcom, here's my drama, here's my film, here's my soap opera type episode, or whatever it is you want to do.
Mm.
You need to have done it, really. Because when I was script editing Big Finish, doing Breaking Bubbles, I was trying to find new writers, and it was difficult because you'd find someone who you thought, this person might be good, and you ask them, go, what have you written? What other sort of fiction have you written? And they go, I haven't written any yet.
Yeah.
And you go, well, this is fun. This is the sort of stuff, like I said, when I was doing it, was 12 years old. I would write a Doctor Who story for my own amusement.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to be a writer, you need to have a portfolio. So if no one's employing you, you don't sit at home waiting for an email to come in. You go, okay, I'm going to get stuff done. I'm going to get stuff out there, and get better, because
Yeah.
the first 100 things you write will be crap, but then you'll start realizing what's good and what's bad in your own writing and improve.
Yeah, I find that on a personal note, me and my friend around about last year started writing our own sitcom. It's something we always thought would be fun to do, so we started writing it. And before we knew it, we had like 6 episodes of stuff we thought was quite fun. And we wrote this sitcom. It had like a story arc across 6 episodes, and then we sort of left it for a year. And we came back to it earlier this year, and we just thought, oh, this would also work as a radio play. So then we started writing it as a radio script through Final Draft. But even the idea of thinking, oh, this would be fun if someone actually made this, but the chances of that happening are quite slim. But the actual process of writing something is quite fun and creative, and you can easily disappear into a void of make believe.
Yeah, uh, one thing I know Stephen Moffat has said is the great thing about writing the script is, your draft is the one that you really like, your happy one. After that, people will change it, and actors and directors might get things wrong or mess it up. But when it's you on your own doing your script, you can make it absolutely perfect, absolutely how you like it. Because yes, even if it's very unlikely a spec script ever gets made. It's happened occasionally. It happened to me once, but even then, you're going to be asked to rewrite it so many times that the whole script by heart, and and every time you see a line, you want to scream because it is so painful that you've rewritten it so many times. With Big Finish, you normally sort of looking at 2 or 3 drafts.
Yeah.
When you go to television or doing a sitcom or something, you're doing 10 drafts, and you're going, and 10 very, very different, sometimes 10 very, very different drafts.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of work, and you're spending months on the same half hour, whatever.
So while we're talking about writing, it'd be a good segue to move on to the new book, Doctor Who: The Monster Vault. How did that come around?
That was Paul Lang's idea, and I think he was thinking of people who'd be good to write it. It did sort of change in the sort of the brief, because it was going to be more sort of behind the scenes stuff, but the publishers were more keen on the fictional approach. My sort of brief was to go write about it as though you're David Attenborough doing a documentary about each monster. And so I think I did the Mandrels first, because I thought that start with something you really like, and where I could go, well, this is, you just look at the ecology of the story and go, they're on this dark planet. It's sort of in a permanent state of darkness. They've got glowing eyes and tendrils, so the glowing eyes must be used as a sort of a lure for insects. And then you go, oh, there are insects in that jungle which we know have a tranquilizing bite. So if the mandrills are feeding on these insects that have a tranquilizing effect, that must be why mandrills are so full of Vaxoin.
Yeah.
And So basically, what I do is for each monster, I just sit down and think about them far too much and try to sort of extrapolate logically from what we see on screen and what we're told about them. For where I could, I went back to the scripts to see where the writer had described them, so I could use some of that, and which would sometimes be like wonderful, and sometimes it would be like the Ice Warriors, where the script's description is entirely different from what they really ended up as. So you go, well, that's useless. And so I'd look at scripts, I'd look at deleted scenes, anything which the writer had sort of intended. I mean, for the Pipe People in the Happiness Patrol, they have a huge backstory, which is all in the rehearsal scripts, which I've put into the book, because going, well, that's sort of, it's Graham Curry's intention for the monster. I sort of avoided getting stuff from audios, books, and comic strips because it's contradictory, and because it's a sort of a bottomless pit of. Once you've started going, what do we know about the Daleks from other media? And you would just never end.
No.
Because you go, do I include stuff from the 1965 Dalek Annual? Does that count? Does it not count? So I just stuck to the TV show, and I mean, sometimes I would just sort of have fun with it. I think for the villain from the Husbands of Wedding Song, King, what's he called? King Hydroflax. I took what we knew, and I was going, okay, he's a sort of a comedy villain. He's slightly over the top, so I'd sort of extrapolate a sort of a funny sort of backstory for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of it's made up by me, but it's all based very, very firmly on the TV show, all the scripts.
So you've made someone else's job in about 50 years much easier when someone goes, do you mind writing a follow-up book about all these new monsters?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is the sort of thing that could be updated,
Yeah.
in 2 years' time. And when we were putting it together, we were having discussions of going, should we include, I don't know, the Celestial Toymaker or something?
Yeah.
And going, no, we can save him for the villain vault.
Yeah.
He can go in there with the Master and Davros and stuff.
Yeah.
So there is potential for a follow-up, and then I'm going, well, we'll do that one, then we'll do the Planet Vault, and then the History Vault, and the Future Vault. I'm happy to keep going, really, but it depends if people buy them.
Yeah. So you mentioned it at the start of the interview. Genetics of the Dalek ties in with Time Lord Victorious, Tom Baker, and does it also slightly tie in with the escape rooms as well?
Yeah, it was an unusual sort of brief, because it started off tying in as an escape room thing.
Yeah.
But that was when it was a different escape room. It didn't have a Dalek in it. It was a unit story. So the first version of it was about a unit investigating time traveling squirrels.
Yeah.
and then they're saying, no, it has to be for the escape room with the Dalek in it, Johnny. And so I did another story, which again will never see the light of day with the Daleks. And then after about a month, it was, we're going to time it. Can you tie it in with Time Lord Victorious? Can you join this escape room, which had nothing to do with Time Lord Victorious, and do a story which joins the two together? But by that point, I think most of Time Lord Victorious had either been written or set in stone. So James Goss sent me a big sort of flow chart of everything that was planned, and sort of going, and you fit in the corner there. You was a little sort of extra bit that we hadn't planned for. So it's not massively linked in with everything else, because it is essentially just sort of tagged on to the end. That's not as an afterthought, as a sort of a bonus, I suppose. It's because I think if you followed the whole of Time Lord Victorious, and it would end with the story with the Fourth Doctor, so it almost sort of has a sort of circularity
Yeah.
that the story ends at the earliest point in the Doctor's life.
Yeah, because I remember when it was announced, a lot of people went, "Oh, Tom Baker's doing Time Lord Victorious now." Because originally we only thought it was going to be 8, 9, and 10, and then suddenly everything else started getting added, and there was comics, escape rooms, audio adventures, T-shirts, toys. It just seems to keep growing every time. Every time I go on Twitter, there's a new thing trending about the new Time Lord Victorious.
Yes, I mean it's one of those things that these sort of things snowball, and if you're doing a sort of merchandise or spin-offs, if you're doing these things, there's always the problem of how do you sort of get a profile, how do you get noticed, because there's so much stuff, there's been so much stuff, and you want the fans and you want the bookshops or whatever to sort of go, this is a new thing, this is a big thing, and this is a way of tying it all together. I think it's with this Dalek little videos, and there'll be stuff on the BBC website and stuff. Hopefully, the idea is this will be as big a thing as a TV series in terms of pushing the brand.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm just sort of a little sort of following behind during my little Dalek story with Tom Baker. So yeah, that's I came in very late, and I'm very glad to have done so.
So that's December time. That's when Jessica Dalek comes out, isn't it? It's around December. Don't think they've given a date yet. They've just said December, I believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I've got Ghosts out in November and Daleks in December, and then I think Mechanoids in January. I think that's my run.
Is there anything past January that we don't know of yet that you could tease us with?
But there's a few things. There's things that have been recorded. There's the Day of the Comet, which is coming out early next year, which I wrote in about 2016.
Oh, wow.
So it's a bit of a time capsule. I wrote it, in a different world, really, and and so that's going to be quite interesting, because that's I was sort of very environmentally minded at the time, and it's about a story where the planet is about to be destroyed.
Okay.
And it's how civilization would cope or react to the idea of there being an imminent end. And so each of the sort of characters embodies a sort of reaction to it, of being someone who tries to maintain order, people who just sort of just grab what they can and panic, or people who are sort of stoic and just go, oh, there's nothing to be done, we might as well just sit back and have a cup of tea and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of, for me, it's a sort of blast from the past. It's it's sort of time traveling, and then after that, it gets difficult, because I know there's stuff I've written which has been recorded, which hasn't been announced yet. Which might come out in 5 years' time. Who knows?
Okay. So there's a lot of. Do Big Finish sometimes record a lot of stuff then, and then just wait on it for a little while to see when a good time to release that would be?
Yes, I mean, it's more to do with actor availability, which works in two ways. I mean, actors do become unavailable.
Yeah.
Like Sylvester McCoy was going. Big Finish was going, we can get Sylvester McCoy anytime we want, and then he goes, sorry guys, I'm off to The Hobbit in Australia for 5 years. So in that situation, they would go, okay, quickly, let's get as much stuff with Sylvester recorded as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Because we have to sort of tide us over that period, without it looking like we've lost him.
Yeah.
And so that happens, and there have been actors who have sadly passed away, and in that situation, the actors themselves have gone, they would like to have the work now, rather than wait a year's time when they might not be around. So,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you very
so
much.
yeah, I mean,
Sorry, go on, Johnny. Carry on. Sorry.
so yeah, I mean, there are stuff which has been recorded. There's a lot of Tom Baker stuff as far as I'm aware. Not some. I think that's the main one where there's probably 2 or 3 more seasons recorded at least.
And there you have it. That was the fantastic Johnny Morris. Thank you so much, Johnny, for giving up your time to come and talk to me. I really appreciate it. We are about to head into Series 2 of our podcast, where we're going to be watching, Series 2 of Doctor Who, starring David Tennant. We're currently chatting with a few possibilities of getting a few exciting guests on, so do subscribe. If you're listening to this on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Turn that bell notification on for notifications. Whatever you do on YouTube, we don't really know. We've got a Twitter account and all that. Just go into the description, you'll find it. More than happy to chat with all of you on Twitter. Unless you're weird, then maybe not. But other than that, thank you so much for listening. Come back again next time for some more exciting Doctor Who content. See you soon.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official
Bigger on the Inside podcast.